Let's welcome back to Midpoint former Los Angeles Police Sergeant, author of Black and Blue, The Creation of a Manifesto, Cheryl Dorsey, and former New York City Police Sergeant, adjunct professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, Joe Giacalone. All right, Sergeant Giacalone, let me get to you on this one here and start this. With regard to cops right now, there is no doubt, I don't think we're going to argue for a minute here, that there are bad cops out there. We know this. There's bad people in every line of work. But isn't it now to the point of the police unions themselves? They've got to get forward here. They've got to get on top of this, and they have got to do everything they can to clean out every single bad cop they can find so that we don't get down to this once again, all cops are bad scenario.
Well, sure. I mean, it even starts in the hiring process first, though. That's really where they have to focus on many of their different types of issues that they're having. The recruitment and selection is paramount. And once you get in the police department, then they have to figure out how they weed them out, whether it's through a early warning system where if you get a lot of complaints and they look into you that way, or whatever it may be. There's no easy solution to it once they're already hired. Isn't
the easier solution, though, that quite frankly, if you have repeat offenders here, you're out. You're fired. No pension, nothing. Get rid of them. Don't we have to get to this absolute point here to make sure that there's no doubt whatsoever what's there and who is in a police uniform?
Well, sure, that would be the ultimate way to do it. However, it's very difficult in policing because of all the false allegations that do happen against the police. I'm not saying that all the allegations are false by any stretch of the imagination, but many of them are. People, bad guys know to get back at the police as they file complaints that the cop took my money, he beat me, he did this. So if you get a record of a lot of different, if you have an active cop, they're going to get these type of complaints. So it's not a easy situation to handle.
Sergeant Dorsey, in your opinion, is it a matter of trying to weed out the false accusations, or as some people would charge, it's a matter that the police unions themselves are just so powerful that they can cover up whatever they want whenever they want to?
Well, we see this all the time. When an officer does a bad deed, the first thing most police departments do is they start to circle the wagons, and they want to find a way to mitigate that bad behavior. So let's admit that it's bad, and let's get rid of them. It's very easy to fire an officer who does something that's a violation of policy or law. So let's fire them, and then let's forbid them from ever becoming a police officer again. You get one bite at the apple, you mess up, you're gone, that's it.
Then why aren't we there? What you just said is absolutely, it makes a tremendous amount of sense. Why aren't we there?
We're not there because I think, in my opinion, that police department heads are more concerned about liability and protecting that city, that organization, that state. And so they don't want to admit that they have an errant officer. They won't admit, even when we see it on video, that an officer did something inappropriate. They mitigate what we see and what we know to be factual. And so unless and until they're willing to admit that there's a problem, then we're going to continue to go round and round in this regard.
Sergeant Giacalone, what about all the rhetoric that we've heard here in the last couple of weeks, certainly in light of the Mike Brown killing and the Eric Garner killing as well, but the people who seem to be, and this is what a lot of people are claiming, it's the Attorney General, the President, Al Sharpton, people like this, who are driving people to violence, who are inciting them to riot, who are not getting them to the point of where they can tamp it down and have some common discussion here. Do you agree with those?
Well, what I would say is that, the president, Eric Holder, I mean, he has made some statements in the past that were just inaccurate, whether it was the Cambridge incident with the professor up in Massachusetts, or even with Trayvon Martin, who wasn't killed by a police officer. You have to be very careful because as the president of the United States, he's the top executive, he's the top law enforcement officer in the country, and he has to weigh his words carefully. I mean, even after the Michael Brown investigation, where forensics have proven things, a Department of Justice autopsy now have confirmed many of the different things that they had, that and they still push the racial profiling issue in Eric Holder, and this is something that the cops right now and a lot of people in the country are looking at and saying, what is going on from our elected officials? I mean, they're getting involved in some local events. I understand these are tragic events, but do they necessarily rise to the occasion that the president has to weigh in?
Sergeant Dorsey, I got about 45 seconds left. Your response?
Well, we know that things that occurred on that grand jury in Ferguson, Missouri were really outrageous. I mean, we understand from the prosecuting attorney now that they put forth witnesses number 40, who in fact is an admitted racist and a liar. And so we've got to get things done the right way, and we need to be honest. There need to be transparency. And so unless and until that happens, people are going to be frustrated and they're going to act out sometimes in a way that's inappropriate. I don't condone it, but be honest if you want things to change.
though, too. I mean, we have the court system. That's where you take your grievances to. I mean, if you look at the inaccuracies from eyewitnesses, where there's several of them, where so the grand jury kind of does their job. I mean, if it was me on the other end, or you, for instance, if you have 8 or 9 different stories from eyewitnesses, you would hope that they wouldn't indict. I mean, that's just common sense.
10-second answer, Sergeant Dorsey.
What I would hope is that they would put forth witnesses that were not racist, that were not known to be liars, and that were going to tell the truth and not try to craft and create a story that was favorable to one side or the other. Just tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may.
Let's let the chips fall where they may and hope that we can all tell the truth down the road. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, Sergeant Joe Giacalone, thank you so much for joining us. Merry Christmas to you both.
You too.
Thank you, Ed. Merry Christmas to you.
Take care. MidPoint continues.